everybody. This is Tommy Buckley from Crowbar and Soilent Green, and you're listening to the FANTASM Podcast.
Phantasm.
Maximum terror.
Oh, that's your target audience, baby!
Phantasm.
And you know something? I sort of enjoyed it.
Phantasm.
Sell the metal! Sell the metal! Sell the metal! Sell the metal!
Phantasm.
Hey, this is Dr. Vincent West with the Phantasm Podcast, and I've got a surprise for you guys today. Got another Crowbar interview for you. This time we're talking with Tommy, the drummer, and we're going to be talking all about Zero and Below, and then their big upcoming tour that I believe is underway. So we'll be talking about that too. Tommy, how you doing, man? Thank you for doing this today.
I'm doing fine today. Thank you, Vincent.
Appreciate you so much. Real quick, we were just chatting about this before we started here. Tell me about how you ended up in Crowbar.
Well, Kirk and I have been friends for a long time. I mean, probably since I was 16.
That's awesome.
And I was always jamming with guys a little bit older than me. So I was jamming in a Christian metal band called Divine Right. And my guitarist, Gary Wilson, was good friends with Kirk. So that's how I met Kirk. We used to kind of go out and hang out. Went and seen Victoria Flintz's band play once. And so we just knew him through the scene. So all those years later, basically Craig, got the slot in Black Label Society. Zach Wild, they called him. I guess basically they were on tour and, opening for Black Label. And Zach was watching Craig every night, thought he was a really good drummer. And after the tour was over, I guess they had exchanged numbers during the tour. So, Craig got that call from Zach, was like, hey, man, we want you to come to Black Label. And then not long after that, Kirk was doing Life's Blood with a Downtrodden. So he hired, a while later, this was like a good while later, this was like 2004, he hired Craig to come back and do that one record,
right.
Life's Blood for the Downtrodden.
Sure.
And Rex Brown also from Pantera on bass. So
okay.
It was a three-piece. It was Kirk on all guitars and vocals, Rex on bass, Craig on drums. But on the fine print of the record, if you look close, it says drum tracks by Craig Nunemacher and, bass tracks by Rex Brown. But the picture on the album was a different band. It was Steve Gibb, which is Barry Gibb's son from the Bee Gees, by the way.
Are you serious?
And, yeah, dude.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we had a Bee Gees son in our band. It's great, dude. Steve's an awesome guy and a great player. But he came from Black Label, so it's kind of weird, man. It was like a little swapping of musicians, man. Craig went to Black Label. Steve left Black Label, came to Crowbar. And then he got Pat Brutus, which is the bass player for Down now.
Okay.
He was playing for Crowbar. So, Pat calls me up. He's like, hey, man, Kirk said, somebody want to know if you wanted to jam. He's putting together a new Crowbar lineup. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of like when I joined Christen's version. Instead of Phil calling me, Ross Cobbleton called me. Dude. And then Phil called me. So it's like, it was the same way with Crowbar. It was weird. Pat called me and kind of ran it by me. And then Kirk called me after Pat. I was like, yeah, man, So basically I told Kirk, I was like, if you would have called me all those years ago, I'd have probably been on every Crowbar album there ever was.
That's awesome.
There probably wouldn't have been four other drummers. But, it was Craig, you had Jimmy and, Sid Muntz played on Equilibrium, and then Tony Costanza played on Sonic Excess in its purest form.
Yep.
So here I came rolling in as the fifth Crowbar drummer and just basically tried to pay respect to all those guys and myself,
Well, it's great to have you on, man. I'm a huge fan of the band, and let's talk about this album. And Zero and Below's Killer came out earlier this year. What's a standout track on this record for you? Is there just to jump right in? Like the first track, The Fear that bonds you. What do you think about that track?
It's funny, like asking about tracks, because I did a little podcast the other day, and I couldn't remember Her Evil is Secret, actually, and the guy was asking me about the tracking on it, and, what was I thinking of doing, and I couldn't even remember what song number it was. I thought it was like track number 3 or something like that, so I started singing it out like a riff on the phone to him. He started laughing. But no, honestly, back to the question, I think I really do like It's Always Worth the Game, and I think Kirk says the same thing usually too. It was like a little more Motorheadish, kind of like rock and roll style, where we were just trying to like, basically he'd pick a riff and then let the riff breathe, and where I could do a beat or do some drum fills, and then the riff would come back in, and then it would stop again and breathe. So that's basically was the idea of it, was to be like Total was like a rock song,
Sure.
Like a Motorhead type of vibe. And it came out really good, man. To me, it was like I started off with a drum lick, and then toward the end of the song, it totally shifts gears into a like really, really fast or heavy part. And it's like I didn't even realize how similar like the drum licks were, and it like they actually kind of went hand in hand, even though they were a little different.
Sure.
And it was like cool. I didn't realize it when until like the last time I listened to it. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I was like, wow, it kind of goes with the drum lick at the end. It stops, and then I do this little drum standout thing, and then that heavy, faster riff comes back in. It's like the last riff of the song.
Right.
But anyhow, it's basically probably my favorite on the album. I do like The Fear That Binds You, the first track on the album. I think that's kind of a face melter for sure. I was going through a lot of personal things at the time. And sometimes, hey, man, I'm in the band, and sometimes Kirk's lyrics influence me, man, because we all have our different things we go through in life, and when you hear the lyrics, people got their own little spin on what they're about. But, hey, man, I was at the time of my life when I was going through things writing this record, and, was kind of perceiving the lyrics in a certain way that I could relate to,
Well, I mean, his lyrics are always, I remember that.
They're definitely deep, man, and very personal.
Oh, yeah.
I've saw people come to Kirk on tours and be like, man, you saved my life, dude. What's for Crowbar? The lyrics, it's like, wow, but definitely left an impression on people with his, the lyrics, that's for sure,
Absolutely, absolutely. What about Confess to Nothing? I really like the third track. What about that one?
Yeah, what's funny is that's the track that I thought the guy was asking me about the other day. Honestly, I got this, personal view about Crowbar since I got in the band. We definitely have a more formulated sound now, I think, and I'm being more of a metal guy. I think it definitely took a more metal direction, but it's still very doom. But I think Confess to Nothing, for me, I don't know, maybe if you will, you can go back to like, dude. I think we have a song that kind of sounds very Alice in Chains kind of like sounding on every album. It's very strange. And Kirk always comes up with this one riff, like a one song on the album where it's like locked into this riff, and Confess to Nothing. I'm not sure if that's the one. That's actually what? Is that the third track you said?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, correct. That's the one I am thinking of. But it starts off very heavy. I think kind of Matt might have wrote the main riff maybe, but then Kirk kind of stepped in and wrote the rest of the song around it. But it's very, to me, some of those songs like that start with a heavy chugging riff. It's just it's very driving, and it just reminds me of like some of the older Alice in Chains, like driving, like the stuff off of Facelift. They're
sure.
Some of those songs, like It Ain't Like That. That's something. It's got that driving vibe to it. But when it gets into the time part, I think it's great, man, because it's very layered sounding. I didn't overdub anything, by the way, on that song.
Okay.
It sounds like I did some over layering on the toms, and honestly, it's just the way I played it. It was very triplet and flam oriented, so I was getting a lot of overlaying going on. I was using my feet and my hands at the same time to do the tom part. Actually, when it goes into the I believe it's the first verse,
Right.
you know, and when it goes back to the second verse, it does the same thing. It goes back to the toms again. But, you know, it sounds so thick. And, I mean, we've got some really, you know, well-produced albums in the last 4 records. And I think this one probably takes the cake. You know, it's up there definitely with Serpent Only Lies, which was great production, and Sever the Wicked Hand. I think Symmetry and Black kind of got a little, you know, mixed and fell on the wayside. But, as far as the new album, I think, you know, it's probably the most organic production. But that song definitely sticks out to me as like the Alice in Chains track of the song.
Right.
I don't know. It's like, it's weird, man. Every album to me would have a song that I think sounds like Alice in Chains.
That's weird.
That's one of
That's
them.
cool.
Yeah. It's so crazy, dude. I like it, dude, because Alice in Chains is one of my favorite bands. So.
Oh, right on.
But you know, it's really cool because Kirk's not that kind of guy that goes out and listens to the bands and picks out riffs and steals with it. It just kind of naturally comes.
Sure,
out.
sure, of course.
It was
It's just
cool for me to hear him whenever I hear those things come out, like in you know, that song. It just it reminds me of certain things sometimes, you know, certain bands.
right. What about track 9, Remaining a Lie? What can you tell us about that one?
Oh man, you know what? Honestly, I'm glad you asked me about that track because we Kirk and I were talking about the album a while back, and you know, he just came out the clear blue. He was like, I always liked that song, dude. And you notice, this is gonna be crazy. I'm gonna tell you again. That kind of reminds me very Life of Agony kind of sounded. It's very, very vicious, very raw. It reminds me of something like that comes off of River Runs Red.
Sure.
When I hear that song, I don't know why, but it just brings me back to when I first found out about Life of Agony, and I was listening to that song, and the lyrics, man, it's like very mysterious.
Right.
I don't know. I really wanted to ask him what that's about, but it sounds like basically it's just about the world having a solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, and I guess like basically like losing the moon or something. And he says something about rebuilding of a moon in the song, so I thought that was kind of very eerie and odd. But it's a really, really heavy song, and I think it's probably one of the best tracks on the record, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, I think that's my favorite song on the album.
Dude, it's heavy, dude. It's like, because we were talking, and Kirk was like, man, you know that track? And I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. You know, he was talking about the same track I was thinking of, and that I've been listening to. Every time I listen to it, I just go, man, I love that song. You know, and it's just really, really raw sounding and heavy, and I dig the riffs in it. Like I said, it's just, it reminds me of like the old Life of Agony stuff of like River Runs Red or like Ugly when Sal Albriscato was on drums, and dude, that shit was just so thick and heavy and like a wall of sound. And that's every time I listen to that song, it just reminds me of like that old vibe, you know. It's
right.
Kind of cool. Like I said, some of our own stuff just reminds me of some of my favorite bands, and I love that.
You know, it's funny you brought Sal up. I was a big Typo Negative fan. That's the only reason I ever bought that River Runs Red was because he was on it.
Well, I didn't even know about that band. You know, I found out about through Brian Patton getting some free cassette tapes while he was on the road while he died. And then when he came home off the tour, he had like Treponum Pal and like, dude, Life of Agony and all these bands you never heard of.
Sure.
And he gave me like a handful of cassette tapes, like promo tapes. So I took them and I listened to them. And the only one, dude, that really stuck to me, that grew on me, was that Life of Agony album. You know, that was the only one. And that made me a fan out of that. I was like one of my favorite bands at the time, man, that came out, because it was so Pantera-ish.
Sure.
You know, and it was like, you couldn't go wrong with the crunch, man. They had the crunch. So I took right to it because it reminded me like the Pantera crunch, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know why he I don't know if he quit Typo Negative or they fired him. I don't know the story with that.
I don't know, man. It was very weird because at the same time, like, he was in Life of Agony, but he popped up on that on those Typo albums, and it was in the videos and stuff, you know. So I'm not sure, like, what band he really was even in. I know it wasn't Life of Agony because I think they ended up getting for a while it was. I saw some, like, live footage of him playing shows back in the day, but I think they ended up getting somebody else. I'm not sure, but well, obviously Johnny Kelly went to Typo Negative.
Yep.
So, you know, I guess he did stay with Life of Agony sound for a while.
Well, what's weird is the first 2 tours I saw Typo on, not to get into this, but I'm already thinking about it now if that's cool, but I remember the first few times I saw them, like Slow, Deep, and Hard, and then Bloody Kisses or whatever, it was Sal. Sal was still in the band, and then all of a sudden when I went and saw them, it was Johnny, which was interesting because I was like, oh, that's weird. I didn't know he was...
Yeah, it was crazy, man. He plays drums to Quiet Riot now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's what I think he plays with Danzig, too, if I'm not mistaken, but...
Yeah, I think so.
But what's weird is some of those records, like October Rust, that's a drum machine.
That's crazy.
I didn't know that. I found that a friend of mine told me that, and I thought he was full of shit, and I started researching it. That band was basically Josh and Peter did all the writing, and for whatever reason, like, I'm not sure what he actually drummed on, but I know he didn't drum on October Rust, which is really interesting. But I don't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I was talking to my friend from Lillian Axe, Danny King.
Okay.
He drummed on. He's the original Lillian Axe drummer.
Yeah.
And, that second Lillian Axe album, dude, Love and War, has got one of the most amazing drum sounds on it. And I always tell him that. And, you know, he was a total glam player and shit, but he was a powerhouse, dude. He hit so hard.
Oh, hey, man.
It's just a massive wall of sound on that record. And he said that he did the drum tracks on a drum pad. Like, he literally played them on pads, like kick drum, snare drum, and went back and did the toms and all that shit.
Sure.
And then he said all the cymbals were overdubbed in after. He sat there with a cymbal set up with no drums and played just the cymbal parts.
Oh, wow.
How crazy is
That's
that?
completely crazy.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, how you'll never, ever know or could tell from listening to that record. It's such an amazing drum sound on that album.
Yeah.
I tell him. You know, and it's basically a glam rock album, a glam metal album. You know, but dude, his drum sound on that's so heavy. It's so thick. Like the song "Love and War," dude. When you listen to that, it's just when that kicks in, you know it, dude. It's like,
sure.
Here it comes. It just builds up right into it.
Hey, man, there's good players in all kinds of music. I never.
Oh, absolutely. You know,
there's always good.
I'll sit, you know, and listen and watch some of these guys and see drum clinics, and it's like, geez, dude. Go home and sell your kit and burn your sticks.
Right. That's funny. As far as recording Zero and Below, did you do anything differently drum-wise on this record?
You know, I just really, honestly, wanted to keep it really as simple as possible.
Okay.
You know, I really wanted to take it back to, for Kirk, I know he really wanted to make it more of a doom record. So that's why there's a lot more slower, doomier sounding songs on the album. But
sure.
It was more of a self-conscious effort to purposely do that. So, you know, when I was handed the click tracks, you know, the parts on these demo CDs, you know, it's like some of it's like a chord that rings out for 4 counts. It's like, what do you do when you get something like that? There's a lot of breathing. There's a lot of space going on. So at that point, you just try to keep it basically simple and do what fits the part, you know?
Sure.
So for me, it was just kind of like going back to my roots, keeping it simple, you know, like as if I was a younger player, just trying to, you know, be a basic drummer. And,
right.
And I was thinking about, you know, the John Bonham school, just the old school, like less is more style of stuff. Just
Phil Rudd.
Tasteful, you know? Phil Rudd, totally, man. Totally he's absolutely one of my favorite drummers.
Goddamn love Phil Rudd. I don't...
Oh, dude, you know, it's the first album I ever learned in my life. I sat in my mom and dad's house in my bedroom and I learned the whole Back in Black record.
That's awesome.
And that's how I basically taught myself how to play drums, just playing to Back in Black. I tell every drummer, if you want to learn how to play drums, dude, listen to Phil Rudd.
What a badass, you know?
It's the perfect basic foundation how to start playing drums, listen to AC/DC, man.
He's fucking, you know.
Oh, he's absolutely a legend, man. He's one of my favorites.
I love him, and I how can you not love that guy? I mean, to me, it's just like, you know, it's the same thing. I could never break myself to go see them again with Malcolm gone. I could never do it.
Yeah, I'd probably have to because I'm such a big fan.
Oh, dude, I love him too, but God,
Phil Rudd live. I love seeing Phil play live because he's just so smooth and he's laid back in the pocket, dude. He likes a cigarette, puts a little cigarette.
Is Phil back with them?
I believe he is, man.
Oh, that's awesome.
Records and all that.
That's awesome.
He's been with them, like, I think Angus let him back in the back.
Okay.
God bless Angus Young, man. Jeez.
Oh, yeah. Malcolm, though, God, what an underrated guitar player.
I know. Well, he was the brains of the band, you know. He wrote most of the riffs, I think, you know, and everything from what I understand.
Oh, God, dude. He's such a fucking good guitar player, man.
I mean, of course, Angus is the, you know, the mastermind guitar, but he's
sure.
the mastermind riff writer, you know. He just kind of sat back in the shadows and did his thing, you know. I mean, him and Cliff Williams, you know, they stand in the back on stage. But, I mean, you know, a lot of AC/DC fans know that Malcolm was the guy, you know.
I tell you, man, I got to see them a few times when I was a kid. I saw them Back in Black, and then For Those About to Rock, and I was really young.
I saw For Those About to Rock.
And dude, it was fucking.
Fly on the Wall.
Oh, Fly on the Wall was great. Yeah, and
it was the same thing together. Yeah, it was
loudest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'll tell you something I was talking about the other day with a buddy of mine. Flick of the Switch, even though it's
oh my God, dude!
That's Phil drumming on the record, but he's not given credit. It says it's Simon Wright, but it's Phil.
No, it's Phil Rudd, but it was actually Simon Wright in the video.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Simon came in after the album was recorded.
Sure,
that was Phil's last record. Dude, Flick of the Switch is one of my favorite AC/DC albums.
It's great.
It was, you know, it was the third of a trilogy, dude, of records, you know.
It's good shit.
The changing of sound, dude, from Back in Black, when they changed that whole sound. And that sound carried on for a good 3 records, which ended with Flick of the Switch, you know.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, it's pretty amazing, dude. I'll tell you.
Very good stuff. So tell us about this tour.
It's a long one. It's 7 weeks long. I mean, we're basically going Midwest and a lot of the East Coast.
Okay.
We had already did like a lot of the West Coast and everything with Sepultura and Sacred Reich. So we were trying to just hit some markets and places that we did go, you know, on the last tour. A little smaller venues and stuff, but it's cool, man. You know, keeps it real, brings it back to your old days when you started off playing. But some of these clubs are so hot, man. It's like, geez, I thought I was going to die on stage one night. But it's been going good, you know. Sometimes it's a little warm on stage.
Oh, yeah.
Clubs, and I mean, shit, dude, we're getting up there now. You know, I'm in my 50s. Kirk's, you know, I'm 52. Kirk's 57. So,
okay.
Dude, there's 3 things I always say, you know, when you're on tour with you need to have a good gig, and it's a towel, a fan, and a water.
Gotcha.
You know, other than playing well, you gotta have those 3 things. And for a drummer, with me, that's, you know, every night on stage, gotta have a towel, a fan, and a water at least.
It's amazing. How long have you guys been out so far?
This is about midpoint through the tour. We're right in the middle now. It's been about 3.5 weeks. We're working on toward the end of the 4th week, I believe. I think the end of this week will be like a month. Something like that, close to it. But we did like a few shows with Mothership before the tour actually started. We did 3 shows, and we love those guys, man. We did some touring with CLC and Mothership, so we were already friends with those guys. So it was fun to see them for 3 days and hang out. And you know, they went back home, but I wish they could have got on the tour with us. But we have a band now called Spirit Adrift, which is actually really, really good band. The drummer Mike has actually played in MOD. He's the drummer for MOD.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah. But he's a really nice guy, good drummer, man, great band. They're all a bunch of great guys, so it's fun to have them out here on the road with us. And like I said, man, it's just a long one, and we still got about another 3.5 weeks to go.
Right. Well, I'm going to ask you this because I asked Kirk, are you a big Saints guy?
Oh, jeez, dude. I'm the Saints fan that definitely bleeds black and gold.
Gotcha. Perfect.
They're all Saints fans. I mean, I don't think any of them are probably any more hardcore than me. I'm probably definitely the most diehard Saints fan guy in the band. I mean, I have been my whole life. I know Matt and Kirk are, but I think, honestly, I could say I was probably most fanatical about it. But, you know, dude, if you walk in my house, I got, like, mini Saints helmets. I got full-size Saints helmets on bookshelves. I got the Super Bowl 44, like, whole field panoramic picture view that a photographer took and released as a print.
Oh shit!
From end zone to end zone. So I got that whole thing framed. That's above my entertainment center in my living room. But yeah, man, it's definitely diehard Saints fans for sure, man. And on the bus between me, Kirk, and Matt. You know, Shane's from Mississippi, and his dad, I think, came from Dallas or something. So Shane's a big Dallas Cowboys fan.
Oh, okay.
You know, because his dad came from Texas. Or
Gotcha.
Lived in Texas or whatever. Well, he told us the story, but so he's a big Texas, the Dallas Cowboys fan. You know.
That's wild. Let me ask you this: do you think Dennis Allen lasts past this year, or do you think they fire him?
Nah, man, I think he's good. I like Dennis Allen. I think he worked under the Sean Payton regime, so he knows how it works. He knows how Sean worked. I mean, I think we're gonna have a really good team this year as long as they can keep Jameis Winston healthy, get hurt.
Yeah,
spraining his ankle at practice. You know.
Well, yeah, that's and that guy is so weird, and he's on fire, or then he's terrible. It's like
I know.
It's the weirdest thing.
I mean, that was always the Saints' luck as far as quarterbacks. I mean, we had some good ones over the years, man. It's always hit or miss. You can never tell how they're gonna do. Some days they're really good, and some days they're just not so good.
I tell you, as Kirk mentioned to you, do y'all think you all will try to get Arch Manning once he gets out of college?
I don't know, man. I tell you, we were lucky enough to get the Honey Badger. He played at LSU.
Hey, man, you've got Landry back now too. He was LSU, wasn't he?
I think so. So I know for those guys, being that they played at LSU, and then it's like a dream come true for Tyrann Mathieu to be playing for the
Oh, dude, defensively, you're all, loaded. Cam Jordan's a fucking freight train.
Oh, dude, he's a beast. But I honestly, dude, I think that we're going to have a pretty, decent team this year if they can just keep themselves healthy and not shoot themselves in the foot with the penalties. Like they always
That's
do.
part of your all's charm, though, I think. It sucks, but, they seem like they always give you all hell, the refs, so...
That's because our defense is always so violent, dude.
They are.
Smashing somebody up or a late hit on a play.
Sure.
But, I tell you what, man, we saw the 10th play of the week on Sports Center Sunday night, me and Matt, and it was that interception. And it was pretty good. It was like it was tipped up in the air, and, man, somebody just comes out of nowhere and does like a Superman leap and intercepts it. So that was like the number 10 play of last week.
Hell.
All sports. Yeah, it was mostly like baseball replays and shit. They were showing but the number 10 play was a football play. It was the Saints. Intercepted.
Nice. Well, I'm planning on making it up there to a game this year, so I'm like 3 hours away. I'm in Pensacola, so...
I haven't been to a game in so long, I can't even tell you really when the last time I went. But I used to go back in the 80s when I was a kid. Actually, it was the 70s.
Dude, that's awesome.
Back in the 70s. My mom and dad's neighbors, they had season tickets, so I was best friends with their son. So whenever they didn't want to go, my neighbor Melvin, Mel would go, and and Big Mel would drop us off. He'd be like, "Hey man, you want to go to the Saints game?" I'm like, "Shit, yeah, let's go." I wasn't even 10 years old yet, So I got to see Archie Manning play a lot back.
It's amazing, dude.
I still have those ticket stubs too. All those ticket stubs.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I saved them. all the old concert ticket stubs.
So, real quick before I let you go, who's Kirk's favorite all-time Saints player and who's yours?
Oh, man, shit. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll say right off the back, I have a lot of favorite Saints players, but, dude, Drew Brees is my all-time favorite.
It's a fucking badass.
Drew Brees will absolutely always be my all-time favorite Saints player. From here on out, probably to the day I die, whether another Drew Brees that comes in and is even better than him, Brees will still be my favorite player.
Gotcha.
But he was just a world-class act, dude. He came into that city when that city really needed him, and they needed that team. And they came in, dude, they lifted everybody's spirits up after Hurricane Katrina. And, dude, 3 years later, he took us, 3 seasons later, dude, 4 seasons later, whatever, he took us to the Super Bowl, man. And that speaks, high volumes, measures, dude, for him, that team, Sean Payton, the coach. And he tried, dude. He came close several times after that, man. I really thought he was going to get another one, and I was praying that he would, dude. And just the NFL hates the Saints, dude. So
I can't argue that. They really do.
Sean Payton, yeah, man. Everything they found so many different ways to always hand the Saints their ass, dude, hold us down, But I think it was a good possibility. Like in 2012 or 11, we were really good. But 12, I think we could have did it. That's the year they suspended Sean Payton.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
And then, we got pretty close a few years after that. Man, it's like, you just got to have the fire in your eyes. They didn't have it, what they had that year.
Sure.
Man. They, a team that goes 13-0 in a row, you got the fire in your eyes.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Who's Kirk's favorite player?
Excuse me. Kirk. Shit, I don't know. That's a good question. He's a little older than me, so I can recall a lot of the older guys, man, like Wes Chandler.
Okay.
On wide receiver, we had I can't even remember some of the positions. We had a guy Conrad Dobler.
Okay.
Dude, Archie Manning, Ricky Jackson. Ricky Jackson's also he's probably my second line player to Drew Brees because he was just a beast back in the day. Sure. But I don't know, man. That's a good question. You're gonna have me asking Kirk that later on. I want to know who his favorite Saints player is.
He may remember talking to me. He may not, but
Ricky Jackson or something like that.
We talked football, but we didn't get that far with it. But
Well, Ricky Jackson was the guy, man, that he got in a car accident one week.
Oh God!
Mid-season, man, and he was in a Corvette. He was driving his Corvette, and he hit the windshield. Man, he split his freaking forehead open pretty good all up. And they literally took a steel plate and they put a steel plate in his head.
Damn.
So he's got this steel plate, dude, in his head, and the NFL made this special face mask for him, dude. And he came back before he was healed up.
Damn.
He was a beast, dude. If you go back and see if you can find some pictures on the internet. But I don't think there's been, maybe by now there's a face mask that's matched it. But back then, there wasn't a finger you could get into this thing.
Oh my God.
Because the only section that was opened up was by his shield. He had that shield going across.
Right.
So you couldn't see his eyes. He had that black tinted shield. So technically nobody could get a hand in his helmet at all. So dude, it was pretty amazing. If you go look, try to see if you can pull up some pictures, man, on the internet. He had a one of a kind face mask that was built by the NFL for him to be put on his helmet to play after that car accident.
That's wild, man.
Yeah, man, check it out. It was literally his cage over his face, dude. It was crazy. It was insane.
It sounds like it.
But he was a beast, dude. Like, he got in there with that thing and played. Still, probably not fully healed from the car accident.
That's wild.
But they were the Dome Patrol back in the day, so he was like one of four, man. It was Ricky Jackson, Sam Mills, which is dead now, God bless him, Vaughn Johnson, and Pat Swilling, dude.
Awesome.
And they were, man, you couldn't get nothing past those guys. Like Pat Swilling and Ricky Jackson were on the ends, and dude, they would sweep them every time. They would just come in, run over who was ever on the outside of the line, or they wouldn't even be touched. It was sack after sack after sack after sack. That's how they got the name the Dome Patrol.
Oh, okay.
You know, because those 4 dudes were like, they were something else, man. They were unstoppable.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, Tommy, thank you for doing this, man.
Ricky Jackson face mask if you get a chance.
Oh, absolutely, man. Dude, thank you for doing this today, guys. Zero and Below is available from Crowbar. Go see them. They're all over. They're touring. Dude, it was a pleasure. Let's do this again sometime. I had a blast talking with you.
Absolutely, brother. Anytime, man. We'll talk anything you want. Football, drums, Crowbar.
Yeah, man.
Whatever, man.
All about it. It's fucking awesome.
Hell yeah, brother.
Dude, have a great day. I didn't mean to talk your head off. I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Man, I love it, dude. I had a great time talking to you today, brother.
Phantasm.
And you know something? I sort of enjoyed it.
Phantasm.